How are you guys? It's very lovely to be here. I don't know for how many times I've been speaking here, and it was interesting how people came up to me and said, "Oh, a couple of years ago you said it's a bubble, and now more people are saying that it's a bubble, but it's still going strong." And obviously it will go strong, and I don't know for how long it will continue to go strong, but I'm glad to see that with some of the craziest things like the ICOs, more and more people are starting to realize that, yes, maybe, the original Bitcoin, it was like, yeah, it's only 20 million of them, but now with how easy it is to raise like $10 million, people are starting to realize, wow, it is maybe a bubble. And I actually want to say, like, I spoke to my friends a couple of weeks ago, and some of them are investing in ICO, they're investing in like pre-ICO, they're looking at these pre-ICO deals, they're riding this bubble for all it's worth. And we were sitting there and discussing what the craziest ICOs they've seen. And one guy actually said, the craziest one he's seen was a guy in Russia who just issued 200 million tokens, and he just distributed them for free. And he left himself 2%, so he left himself 4 million tokens, and the rest, 196 million, he just gave up to people. And they started trading. And right now they're trading at a few cents on the dollar. People are happily trading them. And, it's, pretty amazing. But when you think about it, when the dust settles, people are saying, it's a bubble, but Bitcoin is not a bubble. So Bitcoin, because it's only 20 million, it's hard to mine, it's not a bubble, but everything else potentially on the outskirts is going to be a bubble. So then I will ask the question, where does this stop? So if you have 1,000 coins issued, 1,000, cryptocurrencies, whatever. So, and you agree that at the tail end it's a bubble, so Bitcoin and Ethereum are not a bubble and everything else is, or the first 5 or the first 10, if we say in 20 years people will use, Bitcoin after everything is mined, why not use this 200 million coins, that somebody got for free, right? They're just the same. They're unique. People have ownership. They're all recorded in a blockchain. What I'm saying is, the more I basically look at what's happening, the more I worry that at the final stages, it is going to be, grandmas putting all of their money and taxi drivers in India borrowing money to buy Bitcoins and buy like mining farms or whatever. And then when it all comes down, like you said about social responsibility and equality in poorer countries, I'm just saying like the wealthy countries are probably going to survive because of their social network. But this is a first worldwide bubble in history. It's much worse than the tulip money of like 1600s, because I think when the dust settles, there's going to be hundreds of millions of people who will lose everything. And, and there's not going to be anybody to blame. Like usually you can actually designate a victim and say, look, it's Madoff or it's somebody else. Satoshi, anonymous Satoshi, let's lynch him. But what I'm saying is the regulators may actually have to step in. They will probably realize this and will have to step in before that happens, because the amount of social unrest in these poorer countries that will actually believe in this and will use this as a real means to transfer real wealth into this is, I think, is going to be huge. But not to leave the talk on a negative note. Obviously, I completely agree with you that financial industry is never going to be the same after this, because if we built the financial industry from scratch today, if we started with zero, if we forgot about all this 200-year history, obviously everything would be digitized. It would be more on these blockchains. A lot of intermediaries will go away. Why do you need a financial broker these days? All the broker does is has access to the exchange and can prove that you have the assets that you want to trade. Well, if all of your assets are on blockchain, you can potentially go directly to any exchange, and if your wallet supports an API that allows the exchange to block the asset while you're trading it, then you don't actually need a financial intermediary where you send the assets to him or the money to him. So the financial infrastructure of the future is going to be completely different and completely like everything peer-to-peer, and that's going to be quite amazing. So I think that a lot of what we're doing today, and I think that a lot of speakers who were talking, they were trying to map out what is going to be left after this initial sort of bubble bursts. And I believe that the path today, and this is something I'm trying to follow, is, and I've been talking about this in the past, how to bring some of these technologies into the regulatory space. How to basically give, for example, all of these like crowdfunding on blockchain, ability for companies to, real companies to issue debt, to issue equity, and have regulator real-time access. I think that is going to be some sort of insurance against, what the collapse that comes next. So, I wanted to make a very sort of short speech, not to really upset anybody, and I'm happy to,
Do you think that we got used to you being so? Positive. No, not really.
No, I'm positive because I think that the value that it's going to be. It's like with the internet bubble, so many people collapsed, but Google, all of these guys, they also got their financing in there, and they have survived. And as I said, the financial infrastructure of the future is going to be completely different after this. But even like a short example like you gave about anonymity and how it is important in poorer countries, but I believe that this anonymous sort of nature is not going to survive. Like, for example, Ripple, right? Like, is a very good example where they said, "Oh, we're anonymous, we're blockchain, we're not going to do anything." And the regulator in America said, "But you're transferring financial assets." They're like, "Yeah, but we're a cryptocurrency. It's like anonymous." And they're like, "All right, here's $700,000 fine, and if you don't comply within a month, you're all going to jail." The top executives. And they're like, all right, yeah, okay, so anonymity no more, every transaction KYC, everything AML. And how many times have we heard the word KYC today? We have not heard it at the last BIP conference once. Today, I think it's like every third speaker was mentioning KYC. Not many people mentioned AML yet, anti-money laundering. But as somebody who works in a regulated institution, these are my top concerns. But what I'm also seeing, and this is actually very positive to me, is that people who are in the main money right now is being made where you transfer Bitcoin into fiat. This is like the killer app, and obviously you can do this in Japan, in Korea, somewhere in Switzerland. Like the Swiss Luxembourg gave one payment institution this Bitstamp. They gave them some sort of Bitcoin license. I know that there are a couple companies in Cyprus where I am right now, payment institutions also trying to obtain Bitcoin licenses. So the Malta allowed Exante to do things in Bitcoin. So smaller regulatory bodies are playing around with allowing this to be regulated and getting the business that way. And I think it's kind of like the people who do go that route, I think they will get away with it. Like they will not punishment will not be applied retroactively. It's kind of like with Forex and gambling, internet gambling. Everybody knows that it's basically ripping people off. But if you manage to obtain a license in Malta or Cyprus or whatever, now they're squishing these companies, but it's not like they're retroactively going back after their profits over the last 5 years. They're just saying, look, you have to now step up, improve your practices, making these businesses less profitable. So what I'm saying is, whoever is in this space, if you can manage to get under some sort of regulatory umbrella with more of the, adventurous regulators out there, I think that that's the way to go, and continue to pretend that this anarchy and it's going to be a free-for-all, and these sort of governments are never going to step in and start looking at this. I think that's not going to happen.